How's that?
And we are live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the live. We got a lot to get into tonight. As promised, we are coming to you live at the speed of live. And we're going to discuss Larry Elder's interview with the Breakfast Club and the Coon Culture that we call it, as it's known as the Coon Culture among some black conservatives. So it's going to be a hard hitting night tonight. I got my two compatriots with me, Brother Salam, Brother JT Mack in the building representing. So as we get started here, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have my brother Salam tell us a little bit about yourself, and then my brother JT Mack tell us a little about yourself.
Uh, Greetings, everybody. I'm Salam. I should have put my last name, but whatever. I'm Salam. You know who I am. Easy to find me. I live in Los Angeles. I'm originally from Chicago. Uh, yeah, simple but yet extraordinary brother with simple but yet extraordinary, complex, nuanced ways of looking at things. So, like to investigate that and good to expound upon that. Uh, Three-man threat right here on the line right here. I'm sure there'll be others that'll join us when they can.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And brother J Mack here with us. Go ahead and tell us about yourself, brother.
I got a letter from the government the other day. I opened it and read it. It said they were suckers. No, I'm just. But that's one of the hardest opening lines of any rap song.
Oh, yes, it is.
Yeah. So, born and raised in St. Louis, currently reside in Oregon. Me and my wife and my youngest son moved here, and for various reasons. I am a believer in Jesus Christ. I'm also a proponent of lifting up the community in which I was born and raised in. And I take exception to people who are always trashing and throwing hand grenades at my community. So that's who I am.
All right, and so we're going to go ahead and get into it. First of all, we've all looked at the interview. Let's take turns on what our thoughts are about the Larry Elder interview with the Breakfast Club.
Mhm.
I know it's highly provocative, so go right ahead, brother Salam. Lead us off in your thoughts, and
Yes,
then brother JT Mack, and then we're gonna play some of that audio from the Breakfast Club interview as well.
good. I was going to ask you if somebody had audio on deck good for reference.
Before you start, Brother Salam,
Yeah.
Charles, did you get that other video I asked you to check out? So we need to play a little bit of that. From Feldman.
Yeah, no, I don't have that locked and loaded
Okay,
here,
okay.
but if you could
I'll send it to you, man. That guy is
shoot it to my email right quick, and then I can
okay.
pull it up.
Yeah, so I got the floor. Okay, I'm going. Okay, so I peeped the interview in its entirety, and I was in the middle of watching it for a second time before getting ready to jump on the air just to get my frame right. My thoughts is first I'll preface this with my thoughts on Larry Elder as a person who
Hey,
doesn't really
brother Salam, we got some kind of feedback on your mic. I don't know what that is.
hold on. Let me see if that's.
Sound like a
How
fan.
about now? Can you hear me okay now? I think it was the fan that's okay, good. All right, so we good. So now I'll just preface what I'm gonna say, just my feedback on Larry Elder in general. I just think that he's like a Rubik's Cube of nothingness. You know what I mean? And he's very skilled, is surreptitiously so, in weaving in half-baked facts, that he just toss out there. Like some certain things that we may, as family men, may have a consensus with. I hate to say that relation to him because that's one is what we're here for. But for instance, like he talks about, the value of fathers in the home. And the three of us are fathers in our respective homes, right? But he says it as with the end game in mind, as to talk about how Black people in general are so far off course from the path of function or the path of value and the path of productivity. And what he fails to do is mention context. And I always say truth without context is a lie. And so you need both hand in hand to tell a complete story. Yeah, but he tends to use what statisticians call vacuous truths. So if we were to say that everyone on this call has cell phones, that would be likely a true statement. Yeah, but we could also say that all of us have has a cell phone that's happening to be power off or power on could be a vacuous statement. So if you change like one of the qualifiers, you change and pivot the whole argument. And that's what Larry Elder is good at doing. And what he also goes on to do is he would like if you notice he pretty much engaged with Charlemagne, right? As Charlemagne, I felt asked some very pointed questions. He didn't take L's like people are thinking and saying around the masses. I think people just say that in light of the fact that a lot of people can't stand Charlemagne, unfortunately. So he does has his detractors within the hip hop community and outside the hip hop community. Um, and so there's a tendency to want to see him catch an L, so to speak, even if it's at the hands of someone who detests us even more, even though he shares our same skin tone, right? So we looking at um, when you look at the basis of the question that was asked, for an example, and I'm sure you got the clip queued up, where Charlemagne clearly asked Larry Elder, do you know what a nigger wake-up call is? And Larry Elder, instead of answering the question, he flips the question as to say, well, you let Biden come on your show and insult you as a black man, this, that, and the other. Even though that may be true, but that's still in no way or shape, apples for apples with what Charlemagne is asking. Because Charlemagne wasn't doing the bidding of Joe Biden. We had him on the show. He was actually like holding his foot to the fire, to be quite honest, but to say that the reason why he presented that question, Larry Elder, is that what he was doing, he was backing himself into a corner where now you're not going to have no allies, because once they finish with you, they're going to cast you aside. And that's true for not just for Larry Elder, but for all those what I often call Negro Shapiros, who look to explain the position, over-explain the position, of black, denigrating black people to the pleasure, of the white conservatives who paid them, and that's what we see from Larry Elder. But I held the mic too long, so I'm gonna pass it on. I got more to tell, but we'll get to it as we go forward. So I'll kick it back to you.
Are you good, my brother? Come on, brother J Mac, get in here, man.
Yeah, that was a good opening, bro. That was good round one. You threw some body blows.
Those Vince's reverse 360. He ain't even put his elbow on the rim yet. So.
I lament everything that Salam said, and I know we're going to get into this, but what really irks me the most is the same old tired talking points, the same old tired political conservative far right wing talking points,
Mm-hmm.
to the amusement of white conservatives. And we're going to get into it because I've been saying this for years, and I pulled up an article. I had some other articles I can't find right now, but I got one particular. You know how many people that commit most violent crimes in any particular community? Out of the percentage of a community, let's say even the black community,
yeah,
less than 5% is really saying 1% of every community, but less than 5% of that particular community commits the majority of the violent crimes, and they're repeat offenders, and they do the same stuff over and over. So that what does that mean? That means that 95% of us, for the most part, we don't participate in violent crimes. You know what I'm saying? But you let Larry Elder and Candace Owens and the Coon Patrol tell it that we're all, half of America, or 60-70% of America is out here doing drive-bys and, not taking care of the kids and welfare mamas and blase, blah, blah, blah. And that just really irks me. So there's never context. There's never nuanced viewpoints. It's always attack, black community, attack. Now, as somebody pointed out to me, Larry might actually think he's trying to help the black community. He just very may well, but I don't.
That's a guise.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't. I said it was a grift. Some people say he really believed this stuff that he's saying because of how he was raised, but I don't know, man. It's just disheartening, man. And and like you said, when he went on there and brought up Joe Biden, that was just a diversion.
It was. Because
you were being asked hard questions. You refused to answer the hard questions. You refused to address anything that they asked you to. You couldn't even. They gave you a softball layup. You couldn't even criticize mass shooters. You couldn't bring yourself to do that. So, yeah, we can get into that, brother.
People like Larry Elder, I call them ventriloquist dummies for white supremacy. They open their mouth and the voice of white supremacy speaks. So it's like white supremacists use these black ventriloquist dummies like Larry Elder to actually throw their voice at the black community. What do I mean? I mean, where have you heard this before? Like all these violent black people, all these absentee father black people, black people not taking care of their children, black people irresponsible, black people looking for an easy check, looking for a freebie, all of those talking points. They go all the way back through since the days that we've had a strong media presence on these things, back to the 50s and 60s, and even the older Birth of a Nation type propaganda against black people, trying to caricature us into these roles of immorality, into these roles of being hyper violent, into these roles of being hyper promiscuous. Most of us, of course, don't behave that way, as brother JT Mack just pointed out. But yes, that's the voice of white supremacy. And when a black face opens up their mouth, and then those same talking points come out that have historically been used by white supremacists to marginalize, malign, and then mislabel black people, we see through the rules. We have the facts. We know that 52% of black men are with their children. That means that most of us don't leave our children fatherless. We are there and we are responsible for our children. As brother JT Mack said, most of us are not criminals. We don't commit crimes. And as I love to point out to these folks, black on black crime, it's not a thing. Oh my goodness. And then people get, what do you mean? What do you mean it's not a thing? I mean, statistically, it's not a thing.
FBI table 42.
This is a white supremacist talking point. All you have to do is go to FBI crime data from 1980 to 2008. The U.S. Department of Justice found that. Watch this. And I bet you don't even know. Hold on. Before I do this, I used to do this when I was on the radio. What's the white on white crime rate? Who knows? 84. What is the white on white crime rate? Who knows? And nobody knows. And see, that's the thing. So the black on black crime rate is the talking point. The white on white crime rate, nobody knows it. The white on white crime rate is 84%. 84% of violent crime against white people is committed by other white people. Why isn't that an epidemic? I mean, my goodness, 84% of white people are being violently victimized by other white people. I mean, where's the outcry about white on white crime? Oh my God, what's going on here? And if you think about it, white people make up the majority of this country.
Yes.
They make up the majority of this country. So at 84% white on white crime rate should be freaking people out. Oh my God, all the violent white people. Guess what? It's not a talking point.
That's
no,
right.
Half of y'all listen to this, you didn't even know what the white on white crime rate was until you heard me say it. And then when you point out, of course, that the black on black violent crime rate is 93%. And that's what's made into the talking point. That's what Candace Owens and Larry Elder and all these other black ventriloquist dummies for white supremacy open up their mouth and spout out this propaganda, reinforcing all of the racial stereotypes that white supremacists have held against black people for decades. When the truth of the matter is, the white on white crime rate, violent crime rate, 84%. That's less than a 10% difference.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
brother,
why I say black on black crime is not a thing, folks. Statistically, it's not a thing. All crime is intra-racial. Word of the day, intra-racial. That means race within the same race. Intra-racial. And it's also spatial. So violent crimes are committed within the same race, within the same living area.
Communities, yeah.
And that's the fact.
And that's for every group. That's what I was about to say, Brother Charles. That's for every group. If you look at any group in any region, in anywhere on the planet, you're going to find a majority of crimes or within that proximity.
We could talk about the Asian on. We could talk about the Asian on Asian crime rate. We could talk about the Hispanic on Hispanic crime rate. I could do every ethnic group, but I'm specifically pointing out blacks and whites because the white folks are making the black on black crime rate the talking point. The media is making the black on black crime rate the talking point, and statistically, it's not even a thing. And that's how you can see the deception and how much of a number white supremacy has done on our people, especially our black coons, the Larry Elder, Candace Owens, and these other folk. So I wanted to play some of this audio.
Yes, please.
we got Larry Elder. Some refer to him as the King Coon. Some refer to him as the coon boss that you have to fight at the end of the Black Judas video game.
Yep, he's a William O'Neill.
Exactly. So without further ado, let's hear from Uncle Larry here. Let's hear from Uncle Larry, and Uncle Larry is going to talk about.
I'm aware, Charlemagne, that I'm a black person, just as you are a black person. And when Joe Biden insulted you by
fair use,
you're black, we don't know whether or not you
turn it up a little bit, brother.
For Donald Trump. It seems to me that should have been a wake-up call on your part. How dare this guy come in here and insult you, a black man, and tell you you got to think a certain kind of way? I'm amazed that you weren't mad about that.
I'm not gonna say it upset me, just like I'm not letting you upset me. You know what I mean? I don't tend to get upset over things like that. But what I did say,
well, you just not talk about a nigger wake-up call, and it seemed to me that should have been a wake-up call on your part to have a white guy come in here and tell you have to say think a certain kind of way, otherwise you quote ain't black. Wow.
All right, guys. So.
All right. Well, we're definitely not gonna hear the commentary there, but yeah.
But that's exactly what I was speaking to. You know, earlier, like that was total spin control that way he did, and the young lady that was on there, Teslin Figaro, he didn't want to have nothing to do with her because she was straight running fades with him. And and really honed in on him, like wanting to, because he says there's no systemic racism. And so she brought up examples. She said, okay, let's take racism out of it. What we're going to do is system. And then she said, okay, who's the head of this system? And certain systems. And she went on to name them. And he kept pivoting off of it, To your point earlier, Brother Charles, where you cited the FBI data, right? Table 42 for those of you listening. That's Googleable. Charlemagne asked Larry Elder, the very first question he asked him, or one of the first, was, what do white people do wrong? Because every time I hear you open your mouth, there's black people this, black people that. I'm asking you, what do white people do wrong? And what Charlemagne didn't get credit for, there's a question that he asked that you probably have a clip for. He said to them that when Larry Elder cited that fatherlessness is a derivative issue as it pertains to Black people's deficiencies and things like that, and the vilification. Charlemagne asked, well, Rudy Giuliani had a father in his house. Donald Trump had a father in his house. How come they taking mugshots right now? How come they're under indictments if the fatherlessness was a thing? So what did they not get? And that was a very pointed question that he asked them. But everyone who's talking about, Larry Elder's son, Charlemagne, but the people who they just want to see Charlemagne look bad because they may not like Charlemagne. And that's the crux, I feel, with us a lot of the times, and speaking generally, is that we don't understand exercise the intelligence of who's friend and who's foe. Well, that requires a basic level of recognition on our part. And the likes of Larry Elder, the likes of Candace Owens, the likes of Tim Scott, I can go on and on and on. The likes of those people existing is very much proof of that. The Clarence Thomas, of course, how can we forget him, right? So, but I just want to throw that out there too, with relation to Charlemagne asked some pointed questions, but those questions went on deaf ears because people don't like Charlemagne, and what we're here to discuss is get those facts on the table and re-examine. Did Larry Elder son him? I don't think he did. I do not think he did. But the floor is yours.
Absolutely.
Larry,
I did want to read out
Larry,
disclaimer right fast.
okay,
Then Brother Jay, we're gonna let you get it. Disclaimer, copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. So that's our fair use disclaimer. And as Brother Jay pointed out, I heard him say fair use, fair use. I was like, I forgot to put the fair use thing up there. So yeah, because YouTube will copyright strike my channel. And I don't want that to take place because that interferes with everything I'm trying to do. Brother Jay, you got it?
Yes, this critique does fall under the educational parameter, because we're trying to educate people who, A, may have been shocked by what Larry Elder said, B, some people who may be on the fence, and C, some of the other ones who ride with him that may have a little bit of discernment to listen to something that may disrupt their worldview. So that being said, so Charlemagne asked some very good questions. You're right, brother. And one thing I'm not gonna ever do in my Tariq voice, one thing I'm not ever gonna do is side with some white supremacist talking points just to spite a man a black man who I may have a problem with.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying? I got a problem with a lot of black men. Some of them they can't stand me, and some of them the feeling is mutual. But I would never side with some white supremacist talking points just to spite them.
And I even seen white people commenting on the Breakfast Club on the YouTube feed, and I'm like, I didn't know that white folks was following like that. But unless Larry Elder told his audience, hey, I'm gonna be with Charlemagne, and what have you. And a couple of days after that interview, about less than a week after that interview aired, we hear Tavis Smiley out here on KBLA 1580 on the AM dial. You can download the app. You can look the YouTube channel and look on the web to listen live. You choose. But he interviewed Larry Elder the other day on Thursday morning on my drive in. So I heard that piece. He played this clip, and the backstory is Larry Elder was trying to get on the Breakfast Club for years, and Charlemagne wouldn't return the call. So this criticism that Charlemagne was getting, Charlemagne didn't stay in his lane. and like he shouldn't have had no business having that dude on. No, you went outside. No, Larry Elder was pulling up on him, trying to holler at him and get on that show. He said that out of his own mouth to Tavis Smiley. And I forgot the white conservative host name, but Larry Elder went on his show in New York City and called Charlemagne a coward for not having him on his show.
Ben Shapiro?
I don't know. I don't remember his name. The live that I did, the post that I did the other day when I commented on it, I put the link to the audio where Larry Elder says his name. You know, I just don't remember off the top of my head. But within 48 hours, of being called a coward, Charlemagne hit him up. He's like, all right, let's do it then. And that's how Larry Elder ended up on the show.
Well, here's my problem with Larry. Okay. He got all that energy for Charlemagne, you know, who's just a regular dude who got a good strong radio show. They've been on there for years. Okay. But when it comes to politics and you know, political science and all that stuff, that's not his lane. He's a radio disc jockey. Okay. So he knows what he knows. He's going to talk about what he knows. I mean, I have a problem with Larry Elders because he got all that energy for Charlemagne and the Breakfast Club, but Dr. Rashad Richie's been waiting on Larry Elders to return a call for a year now. Been sending out challenges. Been telling him to come on to the bullpen. Roland Martin's been challenging. Roland Martin's been inviting to challenge Larry Elders for years. And he ain't responded to one of those brothers. I haven't never seen him try to get with like Dr. Mike
Eric Dyson.
Yeah, never. And what am I getting at? The people who know politics, the people who know the issues, he doesn't want to talk to them. They want to debate them. There's no way in the world he's going to go in undisputed with Dr. Richie.
In fairness, though, Jay, I hear exactly what you're saying, and I think you're right. And in fairness, though, to Charlemagne, I just don't want to hold his occupation against him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm not saying you are, but I'm just putting it out there for the listening audience so that we understand. Yeah, he's a radio host. It's like I work in IT. I might do some other things out of basketball, whatever. But at the end of the day, all of us, the reason why the three of us are sitting here right now is because we have a vested interest in our community and a vested interest of not only the detractors outside the community, but also the Negro Shapiros that are amongst us in our ranks. And we're trying to divest ourselves from them. So I'm not going to knock Charlemagne for trying to do, there you go. I'm not going to knock Charlemagne for not quote unquote staying in his lane per se, but Charlemagne's a bright cat. But a lot of dudes have beef with him. Beanie Siegel is one other name that come to mind, and Lil Kim, another name that comes to mind, who had them goons on him in Brooklyn. Yeah, but those are another conversation. But I'm gonna give the floor to Charles. Let you play what Tavis says.
Yeah, I got this clip that you referenced there earlier, Brother Salam. I was able to bird dog it. So let's listen to this clip.
Right on.
GOP presidential candidate Larry Elder was denied a place on the stage last evening in Milwaukee. He has some major issues with the RNC, the Republican National Committee. He'll tell us why in just a moment. But first, take a listen to this clip from Larry's recent tete-a-tete with Charlemagne during Larry's recent appearance on The Breakfast Club.
Have you ever heard of the term nigga wake-up call?
No.
It is an incident where a person of color forgets that they are of color and are reminded rather brutally by an unexpected act of racism. Have you ever had any of those?
Brother.
I'm just asking. You think you've ever
Well,
had
I'm acutely aware, Charlemagne, that I'm a black person, just as you are a black person. And when Joe Biden insulted you by saying, you ain't really black, we don't know whether or not you want to vote for me or vote for Donald Trump, it seems to me that should have been a wake-up call on your part. How dare this guy come in here and insult you, a black man, and tell you got to think a certain kind of way? I'm amazed that you weren't mad about that.
I'm not gonna say it upset me, just like I'm not letting you upset me. You know what I mean? I don't tend to get upset over things like that. But what I did say,
well, you just not talk about a nigger wake-up call, and it seemed to me that should have been a wake-up call on your part to have a white guy come in here who also said, by the way, about Mitt Romney, because he didn't want to put more regulations on Wall Street, going to put y'all back in chains. And Joe Biden has lied for decades about his civil rights record, claiming that he desegregated movie theaters and restaurants in Wilmington, Delaware, when he didn't do any of that. He lied and said that he tried to visit Nelson Mandela during apartheid South Africa. He did not. And he came in here and told you aren't even black and let you think a certain kind of way. It seemed to me that should have been a nigga wake-up call for you, but it wasn't, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, no, for the record, I'm not a Democrat either.
I didn't say you were.
Yeah, I think both.
I don't know what you are. I never even asked you about your party affiliation.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, but you are black. And to have a white guy come in here and tell you have to say think a certain kind of way, otherwise you, quote, ain't black. Wow.
How should I have replied to him, you think?
What I just now said, how dare you insult me and tell me I think as a human being, let alone as a black person? I don't tell you how to think, Joe Biden. How dare you come in here and tell me how I should think? I'm going to vote for Donald Trump if I want to vote for Donald Trump. And if I want to vote for Donald Trump, it does not make me not black. 20% of black people, black men, as I said, voted for Donald Trump in 2020. Are they not black now? So only 80% of black people, black men walking around are really black, 20% are not because they voted for Donald Trump. How insulting is that? How condescending is that?
I mean, you're probably right, but I didn't take it in that way.
I did.
As I said to him in that moment, it's just about me wanting something for my people. And I want to know, what is he going to do for my people? And not only for my people now, how are you going to atone for the things you've done to my people?
Right.
That's it.
Right. And this is a guy, Joe Biden, who, when he first got into the Senate, hung out with segregationists, talked about how well he got along with them, talked about how he didn't want integration because of a jungle. This guy has made all sorts of insulting things to black people, and his policies right now are hurting black people. Inflation hurts the people at the bottom more than anything else. Letting a bunch of illegal aliens into the border are hurting black people more than anybody else, as I said earlier. He opposes school choice when he has his own kids in private school. And we lost a year, almost 2 years of in-school education in California because of COVID that he supported. I mean, this guy has done monstrous things to black people, and then for him to come in here and tell you how you ought to think of the black person, it blew my mind.
As a person objectively who doesn't care about either party.
Larry Elder and I have known each other for about 30 years now, and we don't agree on everything, don't agree on a whole lot. And yet, with all due respect to Charlemagne, Larry ate his lunch. Charlemagne got spanked in that clip. He apparently didn't know that Larry Elder was a pretty renowned national radio host himself, and he ate Charlemagne's lunch in that tete-a-tete when we.
Okay, did he eat Charlemagne's lunch?
I vehemently disagree with that.
Is Brother Tavis lost his mind? Did he have some bad mushrooms on his pizza at lunch? I think those mushrooms had hallucinogenic properties. What Charlemagne did rather effectively, in my opinion, is he was able to dodge the whataboutism. And this is what a lot of right-wingers do. It's called whataboutism. So when you point out something, they say, well, what about this? And then they probably like, look at this other person that did the same thing. Or you're trying to point out something in me. Look at this other person that did the same thing to you. That does not answer the question.
Right.
Therefore, it is an illegitimate mode of conversation. Did not answer the question he asked you. He asked you about the nigga wake-up call. And black people get them all the time.
Every time.
OJ got a big one. because when Johnny Cochran walked through OJ's apartment and he saw no black people, it's almost like OJ fell out of the sky. And was not connected to a black family at all. And all his golfing buddies and his acting buddies and his football buddies, all these white folks all over his apartment. And Johnny Cochran said, we can't have the jury come through because Johnny had spent all that legal capital on getting some black folks on the jury. And now you do a walkthrough, or you give them a walkthrough through OJ's place, and there's no black people. So there's this famous scene in FX's The OJ Story starring Cuba Gooding Jr., which is great. But they actually recreate that scene when Johnny Cochran has his people replace all of the pictures with white folks with black folks and replace the white art with African art. And we got to make this man look black so that these black people on the jury can empathize with this man so that maybe he can get an acquittal. And so that's the nigga wake-up call.
Absolutely.
That's when you realize you are reminded through some kind of racial incident that, yeah, you ain't one of us. And it's a reminder that puts you in your place. And that's something that Black conservatives can relate to. Let me use one example, and I'm going to hand you the mic. But I would be remiss if I didn't go back to my days as a feckless Republican partisan and supporting the presidential candidacy of one Herman Cain in the 2012 election. Herman Cain became the front runner, and we were all excited. He even came to Memphis. There's an interview somewhere floating around this internet of me on Fox 13 News with my Herman Cain stuff on. So, so if anybody finds that, I know my enemies probably looking for it now so they can play it to my embarrassment. But anyway, the point is that he became the front runner and the runaway favorite to secure the nomination, and then all of a sudden, white woman number one comes out. All of a sudden, white woman number two comes out. All of a sudden, white woman number three comes out. Now, I don't know where these white women were while he was running on his way to becoming the front runner. But once he becomes the front runner, all of a sudden it becomes, I had an affair with Herman Cain. Herman Cain did this to me when we went business together. When Herman Cain was the chairman of the business association, he tried to do this to me and that to me. And all this embarrassment comes out. Then he suspends his campaign, drops out of the race, and then white woman number one goes away, white woman number two goes away, white woman number three goes away, and who knows whatever happened to these folks in between when he suspended his campaign and when he died. You never heard anything else from him. Right. But the point is, that's the nigga wake-up call. That's the nigga wake-up call. You can carry our message. You can be our surrogate. But we will never put you in charge. Never. We will never put you in charge. And that's the nigga wake-up call. And absolutely, Larry Elder completely deflected from that, trying to use whataboutism about Joe Biden coming on the Breakfast Club and saying the stupid thing that he said about, well, if you're not going to vote for me, then you're not black. And the irony of it is, when Larry Elder introduces that, it assumes that Charlemagne is a Democrat. That's why Charlemagne pointed that out. I'm not a Democrat. Right. So in so many words, your example is a swing and a miss. Exactly. Because I don't even support Democrat. He said, I think both parties are trash. And see, and that's the problem with these right wingers. These right-wing black folks especially, they can only pivot to partisanship because that's all they got. That's all that's in the brain. So when they dealing with somebody that's neither Democrat or Republican, they don't know what to do. They swinging at the air. Come on, right?
Yes, I was making some little scribble notes on here because we hitting it out the park tonight. Like, you notice how in that clip that Larry Elder was feigning blackness all of a sudden. You notice how he was saying that, well, what do you mean that I'm not black anymore because I vote for Trump? Also, not, but earlier you said it wasn't systemic racism, but yet you support race ideology. I wish my brother, Dr. George Middleton, was available. I hope he's hearing me. I got his book right over there, and this brother breaks down race ideology like anybody that I know in person. And he's a mental health professional, and he shows the nexus that race ideology has on mental health and the detriment that it plays in our mental health. You know, so I just thought that was interesting how Larry Elder feigned all of a sudden the blackness at that point. I'm like, but wait a minute. And then later on, he also said that because when Charlemagne asked him, well, what do white people do wrong? He said, well, I don't care about white people. I'm like, hell, you don't. He literally said that in the interview. He said, well, I don't care about white people. I care about what black people do. So why are you denigrating us if you care about what black people do? I mean, if there's anybody that I care about and I have affections for, or I have their well-being at heart, I'm not going to denigrate that person. That's human nature, right? And so this is his way of flip-flopping, and that's what Sister Teslin Figaro, who I'm a big fan of now, that she pointed out his hypocrisy. And speaking of hypocrisy, as one brother your brother Antonio O'Neill's page, one brother came out and said how, like, they weren't ready for Larry Elder and this, that, and the other. And I said, hold on, time out. I said, time out. Let's take a 20 here, and let's look at what she's saying. Then I quoted everything that I just said. His response was, well, those are not important issues anyway. I said, but see, I wasn't talking about issues per se. What made Teslin Figaro's undressing of Larry Elder so exquisite is the fact that she didn't attack the issue. She attacked his root cognition and what he brings to the issues. And see, how you deal with these Negro Shapiros, these right wingers, these trumpeters and so forth, who like to, as you say, Brother Charles, pivot to partisanship. When you address the root cognition of why you believe what they believe, when you address their consciousness that's planted in their mind, when you attack that basically encompasses any other inductive argument that they can come up with from that root. That's what I wanted to say.
That's exactly right, brother. Brother Jay, go and get in there, man.
Yeah, but can you put your email address in the back chat, please, over there in the private chat?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't know if you guys, and you nailed it, Salam. You nailed it. But I pay attention. My mind kind of works. I pay attention to the outer things that, and the outer layers. You know what I'm saying? There's inner layers, and then there's outer layers, and there's stuff that thrown in there like word salads. And after he said all that, he said, "Who is Joe Biden to tell you as a black man who to vote for?" Which is true. Okay, you can take the truth as the devil does. Satan takes the truth all the time, and season it with just a little bit of poison of lies. That's how Satan operates. He takes the truth and say, "Did God really tell you couldn't eat of this tree?
If you submit to me, I'll give you all of this and make you like God."
Exactly.
But the man was already like God.
Right.
He was already like God before the Satan even opened his mouth.
Right.
He was already like God.
Right. So so after he said all that, then he says, if I want to vote for Trump, I can vote for Trump. When did Charlemagne say anything about you voting for Trump? When did Charlemagne ask you if 20% of black men voted for Donald Trump?
Right.
And then what? And so the only the 80% are real black men.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Spain and blackness. All of a sudden now you mad because you can't be invited to the club.
Right.
And here's the deal. And we said this a long time ago. Larry Elders is still out there banging and crying and whining and defending this criminal ex-president. Okay. And you can have a problem with Joe Biden's policies and all that, which a lot of us do. And I'm not a Democrat. I'm not here to bang for Joe Biden, but Joe Biden is not. They're not trying to put Joe Biden in jail. Ever since Donald Trump got in the White House, they've been trying to put him in jail. I'm not lying. Now they didn't have enough evidence.
This comparison to Dr. King is so laughable.
Oh, that's horrible, man.
Yeah, this is what. Yeah, look, when y'all mentioned,
not convenient.
When y'all mentioned the Orange Menace, also known as the Dictator in Chief, also known as Cheeto Leany, wannabe mafia boss. Of course, I had to bring this up, and I made a post. This is CJ Pearson, young black conservative guy, and of course liked by Donald Trump Jr. If you'll notice in the screen capture that I have made, because
I remember Breonna Keeler undressed him on CNN a couple of years back.
Yeah, right. This is
Shout out Breonna.
Yeah, shouts out Brianna. This is the sort of useful idiot that white supremacists love to use. And of course, the term useful idiot comes from back in the days when the Soviet Union used to use gullible Americans to go against America, even though they live in America. And so white supremacists use these useful idiots like C.J. Pearson to go against black people when they themselves are black. And of course, the parallel here of Trump to Dr. King, and he says, and I quote, and you can see it here on the screen. I'll make it a little bigger just so you can see it. You know who else was forced to take a mug shot after years of politically motivated persecution under a Democrat president? President Trump is in good company. And there you go. When, of course, Dr. King, of course, was imprisoned for opposing unjust laws in the Jim Crow South, and paralleled that to former President Trump, who was definitely imprisoned, albeit briefly incarcerated, long enough for him to make it through booking, and then he was immediately out of there. But he was actually breaking actual laws. They have him on tape. And I want to say this real quick, and I know we're not on here to talk about Trump per se, but this is a glaring example of white privilege. Like, there's really no better example of white privilege than the Orange Menace here, who interestingly enough, on his booking information, said that he had strawberry hair. anyway, that's neither here nor there. I just think that's funny. But the height of the irony here is that he made a criminal phone call, knowing it was recorded, knowing every phone call the president makes is recorded. Okay, Richard Nixon knew this, and Richard Nixon at least had sense enough to go back and get the tapes of the recordings of his phone calls and do some tape splicing. Back in that day, it's almost like how we used to splice tapes when we used to record the radio when we were kids on the cassette tape recorder, and then we would go in and cut the tape at the right spot, splice it together, put the special tape on it. So anyway, Nixon had sense enough to go back and splice the tapes of his calls to get rid of the incriminating stuff before he handed the tapes over. Okay, this is Trump. Knowing it's a criminal phone call. I need 11,780 votes. I need you to find them. And it's going to be we take care of our own. There'll be a reward. So you promise a reward for finding you the 11,780 votes that you need to win. That is a criminal phone call. That is felony election interference.
Yeah.
You know it's on tape. You don't even care because you don't expect to spend 1 second in jail. You don't even expect to get indicted. That is the height of white privilege.
Yes.
Where you don't care that the call is recorded. You don't even try to alter it or change it or anything. The sheer audacity, or as my sister Tasha Black would say, the caucasity, shouts out to Tasha Black, the caucasity of it all. Oh my goodness. And that's the height of white privilege. I want to say this one more thing.
Go ahead, brother.
Because when Obama was the president, I remember Sean Hannity and Laura Ingraham talking about the tan suit. I remember them talking about how he said Marine Corps instead of
Mm-hmm.
Marine Corps, like a corpse, like referring to a dead body. The
Mm-hmm.
the mispronouncing of Marine Corps as Marine Corps.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. These are the Obama scandals, right?
Right.
I mean, clean cut black man, as Harry Reid then said, articulate. He doesn't speak with a Negro dialect. I just
Mm-hmm.
bring that out because it's racist in the Democratic Party as well.
Absolutely.
And this man, no family scandals, been married one time, got 2 kids, no
Mm-hmm.
evidence of him cheating on his wife, and or anything like that. And then you pivot away from him, and now you bring in Trump. And Trump is the trailer park. I mean, I don't care who don't like it.
Yeah.
It's the trailer park. He is the lowest rung of what white America has to offer. Okay? He is gutter.
Yes.
He cusses people out, incites violence. And I'm not just talking about January 6th. I know the folks gonna come for me in the comments. I don't care what these people say about me. You know, I'm where I know I got enemies and I got ops. So clip away, record away. Anything that I say publicly, I'm an old school radio guy. I know anything you say public come back to bite you. So I don't even care. I'm putting it out there just like it is. You
That's
put
right.
the trailer park in the White House.
That's right.
You go from top tier of what Black America has to offer. Lawyer, educated, president of the Harvard Law Review, senator, president, top tier of what the Black community has to offer. And then you pivot from that and you go to the trailer park. Cheated on his 3rd wife while she was pregnant with their child, and then paid hush money to the porn star, because that's who he cheated on his 3rd wife with, the porn star.
Yep.
In order to get her not to tell it during the election, which is, of course, election interference as well. And the way he carries himself with the rest of the court. And he is not an intelligent individual. He is dumb. I mean, Trump is dumb. He suggested dropping a nuclear weapon into a hurricane to stop the hurricane. When they told him that ultraviolet light kills COVID, he asked the doctors, can we get ultraviolet light on the inside of the body? Do you get me?
What about bleach?
How can we get the light inside the body?
Yes.
And then the doctor's looking like.
Well, he said bleach too, brother. Disinfectant.
And when you talk
he did.
about
Drinking bleach,
the disinfectant on the inside, this old white couple, poor old white folks out in Arizona,
and they ended up dying, didn't they?
And died drinking the bleach, trying to kill.
When it tells you a warning,
trying to kill the COVID that was inside of him. All this. I mean, this man is dumb.
Not playing with a full deck.
Not intelligent.
Horse
He's
pills.
not intelligent at all. And this is who you defend.
Yep.
Larry Elder. This is who you defend. This dumb
the criminal
white man.
Criminal on top of that.
This criminal white man. And you defend him, but you attacked Obama relentlessly for 8 years, nonstop, every day on your radio show. And it's shameful. Okay.
That's
anyway,
right.
Let me climb down off my soapbox. Talking about this dumb white man named Donald Trump.
No, I loved every word of it. It was fire, Brother Charles. As you was talking, as you know, I got my Der Kugelschreiber in Deutsch, so I was writing my notes. And interesting, I'm just gonna go through my notes as add on what you were saying. Like when you were mentioning that the call where he needed 11,780 votes. Now here's a man who said from the outset that he did nothing wrong, or had no knowledge of him doing anything wrong. But yet you knew that you crunched numbers and you knew what you needed. You needed 11,780 votes. So basically he pulled a dead president's move, on the phone, you know what I'm saying? And so trying to get votes. So that incriminating in itself right there, right? And then also with respect to the picture that you got on the screen, that I found it laughable, that this brother who so he's not a brother. If you talk against our interests, he's not a brother, and I'm gonna cover that aspect shortly. But that CJ, who got dressed down by Breonna Keeler a couple of years ago on CNN, I remember. I think I posted that interview a couple of years ago too, and I wanted to ask him a question. If CJ was sitting right in front of me, I would ask him a question. Did William Pepper write about Donald Trump in Orders to Kill? Let's see. When I remember that documentation, that book that was written that talked about a conspiracy to assassinate Dr. King. Show me the conspiracy, to assassinate Trump. Show me that. Did William Pepper talk about that? No, he did not. No, he did not. And there's a reason why the King family won a settlement from the United States government in an attempt to assassinate Dr. King. Let's see if Trump Jr. and his dependents are going to win some kind of a settlement, since we want to compare things, right? So I thought I'd throw that question out there. Another thing I want to mention is that this whole discussion, these Negro Shapiros, I'm borrowing your word, Brother Charles, ventriloquist dummies of white supremacy, when we're talking about these, it reminds me of a discussion that came up about Brother Timothy Townsend. If you're out there, shout out to you. I had this discussion on your page when I made a post of that meme that says slavery was not a benefit to Black people, and it's not. And two times, I argued with two Negro Shapiros that quickly cited the presence of Black slave owners, in the South. And so what I found interesting is they said, well, slavery benefited them. I said, well, come on now. If we're talking a Black slave owner, that's like saying that William O'Neill or Darthar Perry or Gene Roberts, okay, these are Black people who betrayed our Black leaders, Reverend Billy Kyles, who betrayed Dr. King, okay? That's like saying that, okay, that they benefited us in some way just because what they individually were able to accomplish, or what they individually were able, they were able to drink from the spigot of white supremacy and turn on our heroes. So that's my issue with that. But I want to touch on this Black slave owner thing. See what Negro Shapiros and white folks alike, they bring this up, and what they fail to mention is that there were two types of Black slave owners, even as rare as they were. Because I believe, Brother Charles, you cited a statistic on, I think it was like maybe 15% of some of slave owners entirely, and as a whole, so during that era. So the percentage of Black slave owners was even less. So we're talking about, and when I read some document,
we're talking about almost nobody. There were
nobody.
It's
very minuscule,
owners, and their percentage was limited
like
to
2%?
Louisiana. Yeah, it was even less than 2%, but it was limited to the Louisiana area, specifically the New Orleans area, because those free Blacks that were French citizens
and mulattoes
came over, the mulattoes, and they owned some slaves, and that was about the extent of Black slave ownership. So it's like almost nobody. It's just like the Black on Black crime. It's not
exactly.
It's not a thing. Yeah.
Because there's two classes of Black slave owners. There's benevolent slave owners and there's commercial slave owners. Those benevolent slave owners were the Black folks who a few of them who were of means, in order to keep their families together, they would purchase the freedom of their relatives, so to keep the families together, because families are getting broken apart, as we knew of slavery. So what did white folks do in response to that? They said that in order to potentially quell a slave rebellion, that they said that anytime that a Black slave had their freedom purchased by their relative, they had to leave the state. So states like South Carolina and Virginia made tweaks to their manumission laws that made them leave and be expatriated from the state, when their freedom was purchased. And so there were black folks who, like, were before then, they were just saying, okay, yeah, my auntie owns me and I can kick it. You know what I mean? So they had no problem with that. But when we're talking about the commercial slave owners, why are we even talking about them? Like when we say slavery didn't benefit black people, and then you want to throw in these mulattoes who are high class, who obviously they don't have our best interests at heart. Okay, that's like saying I pivot there and look at John McCain, who was held as a prisoner of war in North Vietnam. At the time, they offered him early release because they found out he was the son of an admiral. And at that particular time, Davis was the kid's last name. It was a young brother who had accepted freedom on his behalf, on his behalf, early release. But it's like saying that if you accept, any kind of freedom, or you're able to actualize anything in an individual basis, that somehow that benefits the group. And so this one Negro Shapiro was arguing me, saying, well, you can't say that I'm less black. Well, yes, I can. Because if you support, you to point out to me black slave owners as an exception to a rule that slavery didn't benefit black people, you ain't no way in hell you my brother. And so the hell with you.
Yeah,
get your ass away from me. That's my thing there.
I recall the minister saying something to that effect a few years ago.
Yeah. You ain't no way in hell you my brother.
He said, get your raggedy ass.
Take your raggedy ass home. and then
the minister went in that day.
Yes, he did. And also when you was mentioning how it was something you just mentioned. I forgot exactly what you said. If you said it, I remember, but I wrote a bullet point and it reminded me of what Lyndon Baines Johnson said about if you can convince the lowest white man, that he's better than the best colored man, then he won't see you lifting money out of his pockets. And then he said, hell, if you give him somebody to look down on, he'll empty his pockets for you. That's what that was a quote by Lyndon Baines Johnson as regards to the lowest white man and the best colored man, which essentially was the same bedrock argument from 3 centuries earlier. That's what made Bacon's Rebellion a thing to be successful. 3 centuries earlier, and all that to say, my last point is anytime that I always say that every time there's black progress or jubilation, it's always met with white mobilization. And the reason why I say that is because if you remember the first inauguration of President Obama, within less than 3 or 4 days, the Tea Party was born in the hotel room down the damn street. How about that? That was, and so what we seeing from, Agent Orange, the COVID 45, what we're seeing here as a backlash still to this day, and Obama ain't been in office, since 2016. So we're talking 7 years now, and we're still seeing the backlash of that. It's like, no, you elected this black man in office. No, nigga, you got to pay. And every time, like if you look throughout history, when black folk were free and black folk were skilled craftsmen, skilled laborers, you know what I'm saying? Oh, I'm gonna let you get to that. Skilled laborers, right? When black folk were skilled laborers, we locked white folks out of jobs. So while we were putting black folks in Congress within a 12-year window in Reconstruction, what happened? The Great Compromise happens. They rolled back federal oversight of the black folks in the South and allowed the states to regulate their affairs, and therefore the Klan was born. And there you have it. I got to throw it back to you, and we're gonna hear from the minister.
Well, I want to throw it to the minister real quick because I want the minister to say this piece to these black Judases, these black coons, these race traitors, these disgraces to the race. Few people can articulate it better than the Honorable Minister
Honorable Minister Louis
Farrakhan.
Farrakhan.
So
Yes,
let's
indeed.
so let's listen to him.
But God is gonna call.
Turn that
One of
volume
you
up.
gonna stand, and the other one gonna lay down. No. We all not gonna be together. This ain't no damn unity party with punks. This ain't no unity party with people who don't want the true liberation of black people. This ain't no unity party with betrayers and snitchers and hypocrites and weak-minded, weak-blooded, spineless black people. This ain't that kind of party. So you take your raggedy ass on home. But those who want liberation,
take your raggedy ass home.
those who want to see black people really free at last. You walk.
Okay, one more time.
We all
Yeah.
not gonna
Gotta
be
hear it one more time.
This ain't no damn unity
This for
party
you,
with
Larry
punks.
Elder.
This ain't no unity party
You
with
Candace
people who
Owens.
don't want the true liberation of black people. This ain't no unity party with betrayers and snitchers and hypocrites and weak-minded, weak-blooded, spineless black people. This ain't that kind of party. So you take your raggedy ass on home. But those who want liberation,
Yes, sir.
Get Uncle Larry out of here.
those who want to see black people really free at last.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You walk away from these punctified Negroes
Come on here.
unless you unite the like-minded of us.
Work with
Whether
it.
we are Christians or Muslims
All
or
right.
nationalists or agnostics or socialists,
Yes.
if we are like-minded
Yes.
on reparations and on justice for our
Yes.
people,
Yes.
we are brothers indeed.
Come on.
That's right.
But a black face ain't gonna make you no brother today.
Come on here.
Thank you.
We tired of these black face, white-hearted niggas say that masquerading as though you love your people.
Come on.
Mm-hmm.
Listen.
That's right.
It don't get more real
More succinct than that.
than that.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say it any better than that. We've been on here about an hour and 7 minutes, and I've been saying it, and Brother Salam been saying it, and Brother JT Mac been saying it, but none of us have said it
No,
better than that.
that's right.
And it didn't take him long.
No. I'll tell you what. Let me
My.
let me rock out for a minute because I got
Go
something
ahead.
I want to read. But
Go
and
ahead.
I first want to acknowledge what the minister just said, and he hit it out the park because it's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
You can't consider people who, you know, and for all intents and purposes, hate the black community. They self-loathing. Now, we can throw some grace at some of them. Maybe they don't know that's what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? But
Understood.
a lot of them, they know it's a grift. They know it's a grift and they don't care because it's profitable.
Like Candace.
Yeah, she knows it's a grift and she does.
It's only as good until it isn't.
Yeah.
Candace went from being a Democrat to a Trump supporter all in 2016.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, because it was a grift. And she can't
got
find, and
the
she can't find,
NAACP helped her win $37,500 in a racial discrimination lawsuit, and
Yeah.
she
Wow.
never gave that money back. I often go sometimes, every now and then I'll go on her stuff and troll her and just ask her, have you given back that $37,500 yet? Since there's no such thing as racism, of course.
Systemic racism, right?
So surely, since there's no systemic racism, surely you can give that $37,500 back to those white folks that you stole it from, because you shouldn't have got it, because there is no racial discrimination, systemic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
according to her. So she's such a hypocrite.
She's
get
yeah.
that money back, Candace. If you hear this, Candace, get that money back.
Yeah,
$37,500. Give it back.
It's a
Break
total grip.
yourself.
Yeah. Don't. Yeah, you got help from the NAACP. Break yourself from all that. Give it back.
Mhm.
Right.
But it's a total grift. She never has anything good to say about black people, and it's just always. But look here, this is one of the articles I was referencing. This is not my strongest article, but I just in case some people wanted to read some of this stuff. Here's an article from 2021 September from John M. McDonald and Thomas Hogan. It says concentrating on crime. An outside share of lawbreaking occurs at certain places and times and is perpetrated by a small group of people. Now, I'm just going to read some of the highlights. I ain't going to read the whole article. Let's see. The first rule has important implications for law enforcement. Identifying and concentrating on hotspots can yield big rewards. Merely parking a patrol car outside of these addresses, meaning addresses that primarily have problems. That's what they're talking about. If you put a patrol car near some of those addresses, some people start acting like they got some sense.
Mhm.
Some crime may be displaced to other locations when police shut down hotspots. Yeah. But evidence shows that suppressing crime at these magnet addresses may create a diffusion of benefits that extend beyond the hotspot. After all, setting up another stash house or a problematic liquor store is not always so simple. So second point, violent crime is heavily concentrated in a relatively few individuals. I don't know if y'all caught that.
Mhm.
Individuals. In general, 5% of the criminal offenders. 5% of he ain't talking about 5% of any community. He's talking about 5% of the criminals.
Right.
Not 5% of the general population. 5% of the criminal offenders in a given city commit about 50% of that city's violent crime. So
they tried to Clarence 13X the argument, huh?
Yeah.
Man.
You got a criminal element, and 5% of those do 50% of the crime. And then it says one study found that just 1% of offenders were responsible for over 60% of violent crime. Now, this is not just the black community. This is the study of all cities in America. But I just wanted to give some people a reference to think I'm not just making this up. I've been reading stories, statistics like this for years, and I can't find my other sources. But this is one of them. If anybody want to take a gander at it, it's from the City Journal and from September 2021. So, and I'm gonna land on this. And I sent you two videos, Brother Charles. The one is Feldman. He's hilarious, but the other one is just so bad. You remember? We all know about Uncle Ruckus, but you guys remember Clayton Bixby from Dave Chappelle skit?
Oh yeah, the blind
man thought he was white. And he was racist
at the KKK rally.
Well, that was some hilarious.
That was hilarious.
This dude, you guys that see this video, this dude, and I'm just gonna say it for because his T-shirt says "Niggers for Trump."
Oh, I've seen that just the other day.
He's on TV, Fox News, and whoever else out there and rallying support for his criminal president. And he's got on a T-shirt, "Yeah, we're niggers for Trump." That's right. And that Fannie Willis, my sister went to school with her. She ain't black. Bleep.
Look at that. Stockholm Syndrome and scientific notation.
And Brother Charles, he said,
"This fried died,
Brother Charles,
Negro here.
I want you to know
this Negro ain't worth 2 nickels rubbed together to make a dime."
Let me land on this real quick, Brother Charles. The dude said something very dangerous, and a lot of these MAGA cult members are of the same mindset. he said that we should make Donald Trump king and basically end democracy and make Donald Trump
he
king.
does not even believe in the American Republic.
What has
he wants Trump to be the king.
What has this man done to the I don't know, 40% of America? What has he done to them? I mean, he is brainwashed.
This man doesn't even want an intelligent white man to be king. He wants a dumb white man to be his king.
It reminds me. You remember that episode of the Jeffersons, with George and Bentley and Willis? They was at the KKK rally.
Yeah,
and then he's like, "Go ahead." And then he ended up giving them mouth to mouth when the Grand Wizard had a heart attack, and the Grand Wizard's son was getting all hysterical. He helps him, he revives him, and then he looks up and says, "You should have just let me die then." And they wheeled him out.
Wasn't that supposed to be like a business meeting or something? They thought they were going to a business
meeting.
Right, exactly right. Exactly right. And this Negro right here, I don't even know what his name is, but this Negro here, and this is part of what I mean about useful idiots. If you look at it, let me see if I can make it bigger so everybody can see it. But you see whose Instagram this is? Charlie Kirk 1776.
Yep.
And then I'm gonna go down at the bottom, Charlie Kirk 1776, and he gives a quote from this a half-baked Negro here. I support Trump against a two-tier justice system. Now, and I pointed that out because it highlights the point I made earlier about these useful idiots, how the white supremacists will use these useful idiots in order to spread their message. And they don't care how much of an embarrassment this is, this black man that will put on this Niggas for Trump shirt and parade around buck dancing, shucking and jiving.
I know some niggas that'll wear a shirt like that too, sadly.
Sadly. And of course, Charlie Kirk doesn't hesitate. And if you don't know who Charlie Kirk is, he is
no hesitation at all.
He's the founding leader of Turning Point USA, and it's the group that actually hired Candace before she went up on her own. Candace before she was working for Prager, the fake U, because Prager U is not a real university. I don't know if y'all knew that or not.
Yeah, I knew.
I mean, not y'all, but some of these some of these white conservatives and black conservatives listening to me right now may not have known that Prager U was not actually a real university.
You know what else I find interesting? I'm gonna let you get it back, Charles.
Yeah, you good.
Is the fact that how many times when you pointed out who this Instagram page belonged to, how many times have you heard of those lights of those conservative white folks denigrate hip hop music for its use of the word nigga this, nigga that, nigga this?
Right.
But here you are proliferating it in the exact same syntax the way we expressed it in our hip hop music.
Right.
When it's convenient.
And that's how duplicitous they are. Because they don't mind contradicting their own message if it serves the purpose of furthering their message. So they're so eager to prove that there are black folks that support President Trump. And this is, of course, in Atlanta. This was at the rally that they had when he was arrested, arraigned, got his mug shot taken, the whole nine. And I want to point out something funny about that too. And I got the picture of that half-baked Negro somewhere on my phone. But anyway, I'm gonna produce that because it's the mug shot of one of the one Negro that was with him. And they all bonded out, and he's still locked up.
Negro Shapiro's still in there.
So the black one didn't get out with the others. So I guess he needed his Niggas for Trump shirt as well. Shilling for a man that wouldn't even make sure that he got locked up. Meanwhile, as I like to joke from Harlem Nights, when Sugar went and bailed out everybody that was locked up from his club, how much would it be? That'll be, in whatever amount he said, and he just pulled it out of the briefcase.
No problem.
But Trump is not going to return the same courtesy to these folks that risk their law licenses, their reputations, and their professional careers to shield for a doomed candidacy that everybody knew he lost, and he just didn't want to accept defeat. In his
He's holding on
hubris,
to
Earlier this
all
week,
that money.
defeat, and they
earlier this week, Giuliani was trying to hit up Trump, and Trump wouldn't even return his calls.
Yeah, all that money, all that money that Trump owed Giuliani, ain't paid him a dime.
You brought up old Giuliani. He was the one out in the hot sun that had his hair dye
running down
his face, running down the side of his head, looking like an alien.
That was supposed. Remember, that was supposed to be a hotel, and it turned out to be a gas station or something. Boy, that was hilarious.
Right, literally melting on live television for you, and then you won't even return his call.
Yeah, a lot of them are getting that wake up call because they've been trying to get Trump to release all that money that people gave him for defense fund, to help them. And he's like, he ain't returning calls. He ain't sending them no money. That's funny, man. You know, Giuliani out there and looking and begging for help.
He need a loan.
He said he don't even want to get a public defender. He might that's what he have to do, you know. And
Trump putting his own oxygen mask on first.
Yes, that's exactly right. And he is definitely going to take care of himself, being, of course, the consummate narcissist that he is. You know, he's only going to look out for self. So let me, I got all these mug shots. I was actually going to do a post, and I'm about to email myself all these mug shots so I can, because I got to pull up the mug shot of this half-baked Negro that didn't get out on bail with the rest of them.
Yeah, do that. Yeah.
I got to put his mug up here.
so remember, I sent you those 2 videos, by the way. But remember the you know, when y'all were talking about all the crazy stuff, Larry's supporting the man that's done all the crazy stuff, but he's questioning Charlemagne for voting for Biden. Okay, and that's fine. Right. But what about Trump's racism? What about the whole birtherism? Long before he ever ran for president. Questioning having the audacity to question
Obama's
citizenship of the first black president.
Right. So here's one. And we see who this is. Disgraced former mayor of New York, law license losing Rudy Giuliani. And now we're going to go and, so now we got another one, Mark Meadows. What's behind door number 3? They covered up his mouth, but that's John Eastman. And here's Kenneth Chesbro. I was gonna say Cheeseboro, but anyway, here we go. Here's old Jenna Ellis. She's a RICO defender. Old Scott Hall. I don't even know who that is. I don't know. And here's the lawyer that was gonna release the Kraken.
Brother, stop.
Sidney
Stop
Powell.
for a second. Stop for a second. Yeah. Look at this picture. That is only psychopaths take pictures like that in a freaking in a line or booking. Hold up, how many of y'all out there? And I don't know if you brothers watch Fargo?
I did.
TVC. I love that. And the last season was with Chris Rock. Chris Rock was a Kansas City gangster.
Yeah.
It was a nurse, a psychopath.
Yeah, the crazy nurse. Yeah, she looks like the crazy nurse. Wow. Man, I'm glad you brought that out. She's like the crazy nurse from Fargo. I didn't even think about that. She looks like she's about to put something in somebody's meds and make them pass out. Yeah.
I put her picture next to that nurse on my Facebook page.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. And then, of course, we got David Schaefer.
David Schaefer.
Yeah. And now we got
Kathy Latham.
she looking like a dead headlight. She looking like, I can't believe
Man.
they locked me up. So this is Kathy Latham.
Holy
and
smokes.
Ray Smith, we not gonna say what he looked like.
He look like Jerry Quarry or somebody at the Ali fight.
Jeffrey Dahmer.
Man, he looks weird. Oh, and here we
go.
Harrison Floyd. So
Negro Shapiro.
We got the note that his bond was not set. He was
How convenient.
Earlier this year with attacking the FBI agent working on the Justice Department's investigation into Trump's attempt to steal the 2020 election. So this half-baked Negro named Harrison Floyd is, of course, and I wanted to grab his picture and put it up last but not least because he's still in there. so all of the white ones are out and the black one is still in there.
He's still up in there.
So I wonder is this
they got a sister too.
Yeah, I wonder is this Harrison Floyd's nigga wake up call?
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder did he answer the phone?
Right.
Harrison Floyd, did you answer the phone to this nigga wake up call? All the white ones in and out, and you still in. So
exactly,
he's probably still sitting in there talking about, yeah, Donald Trump gonna get me out of here.
He's gonna get me out. You remind me of? You just reminded me of all of the January 6 folks that were did what they did, expecting Trump to help them because he was still the president at the time, and then he didn't. He didn't help him.
Where's my pardon, buddy? Come on, Trump.
I thought he was gonna give me a pardon. Nah, you ain't getting no pardon.
Hey, you know what's has come out lately? It's even more disturbing than everything that we saw. I know it seems shocking that I'm saying this. The Secret Service was in on the plot on the plot.
Oh yeah, I seen that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I saw that too. You know, it's a lot coming out about.
I'm not saying everybody in the Secret Service, but there was a percentage of them that was in on that.
That's a big piece, though.
Yes, indeed. And so I did want to get to a little bit more. We're gonna be on a little bit longer, but not much longer because a lot of what we've covered we've already said. I did want to cover a little bit more of Uncle Larry. So I got one pulled up. I want us to react to it real quick.
Okay.
So we're gonna play a little more Uncle Larry. Yeah, there's Uncle Larry. So let's play a little more Uncle Larry.
That's a question. What do white people do wrong, Larry?
What do you mean? What do white people do? I'm not worried about white people. I'm worried about what's going on with us.
But if there's systemic racism,
no, I don't say there is. You say there is. I don't believe that.
Oh, you don't believe this?
No, there used to be, obviously. Tell me what you think the number one systemic example of systemic racism is in America.
Oh man, there's so many.
Just give me the most important one you think.
At the top of mind, I probably say mass incarceration. Maybe.
Really? During the Great Depression, when 50% of Black adults were unemployed, you didn't have this kind of mass incarceration. It's the breakdown of the family.
I'm not going to. I agree with the family part. I'm a Black man who is a father to his children, and I'm a happily married Black man to a Black woman. So I'm never going to argue with that part, you know. But I just feel like everything is black with you. Black is wrong. Black people do that. And when I ask you what white people do wrong, you said you're not worried about white people at all.
I'm talking about the damage, disproportionate damage going on in the Black community. For example, look at these smash and grabs that are taking place in Los Angeles, where I live. There's a suburb called Glendale where at a mall, a mob of 30 to 40 people, they had masks on, but one guy got popped. He was a Black. I think most of those who were doing this were Black. And in recent years and times, there have been a number of these in places like Chicago, places like New York. If I were involved in something like that, Charlemagne, I grew up with a dad, just as you're raising your own children. I would have been more afraid of my father than I would about the cops catching me. These kids are afraid of neither. They don't have a father in the home. Cops are demoralized. They're pulling back. Their manpower is short. And as a result, you tell a bad guy you're less likely to be caught, convicted, incarcerated, crime goes up. They may be criminals, but they're not stupid. When you say, what do white people do? I mean, this is a country that has struggled mightily to get over its historic racism. There was a civil war. There was a big civil rights movement. This is the only majority white country that's ever elected a black president, let alone reelected a black president. The three biggest cities in America are New York, Chicago, LA. They all have black mayors, even though no city has a majority of black population. The president of Harvard is a black female. Martin Luther King in 1966, Charlemagne, gave an interview to the BBC. This is 2 years after the Civil Rights Act of 64 got passed. And he said, I'm amazed at how many positive changes there have been in America in the last 2 years. Why, if things keep going like this, we could have a black president in about 40 years' time. Do the math. Right on cue, Barack Obama elected 2008. He didn't say there'll be a black female president of Harvard, and there has been. He didn't say there are going to be black CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, and there have been several. He didn't say the percentage of House would equal the percentage of black people in the population, and it does.
And I wanted us to respond to that. And it's, of course, the meritorious argument, the meritocracy angle. Look at these key positions that black people have. Oh, that must mean that the black community is doing all right.
No, that's absolutely not true.
But white supremacists have always done this. They point out a few successful black people.
Look at Frederick Douglass. You guys should be happy. Frederick Douglass is it? Look at Frederick Douglass.
Yeah. See, it all goes back to slavery days.
Yeah.
When they would take some slaves and put them into more favored positions. And then they would actually say, hey, I'm a good slave master. Look, I let this slave live in the house.
Yeah.
I feed this slave from my own table. Look, I'm not a bad slave master. And then the others, the field Negroes will be like, you know what? Massa ain't half bad. Massa got some of us up in the big house. We's coming up. We's in the big house now.
East side.
I mean, and then, they're playing the same game.
You know what's interesting?
Black ventriloquist dummies like Larry Elder.
You notice how
the same stuff.
You notice how he cited like as his response to or rebuttal to it being systemic racism that three major cities, New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, all have black mayors, but not have a black majority base.
Three
black mayors.
Three cities.
Do you know what the percentage of black mayors in the entire country is?
Right.
Probably 5%.
3.8%.
He don't want to talk about that though. He don't want to talk about that.
3.8%. There's 76.2% white mayors of all the cities.
The three largest cities.
Right.
We let Jackie Robinson play baseball. Whatever else you want. What else you want?
Exactly.
See, that's it. We got a Negro swinging sticks at white men.
Now, what else you want?
Yeah. We didn't let y'all have Lexington Steel like knock down our women. Racism over.
What else you niggas want? They got a black man swinging sticks at white man. What else you niggas want? They got a black president. What else you niggas
really want from us?
Y'all got three black males.
Uncle Ruckus is here. Hey, you know what you should do, Brother Charles? You should turn your camera off when you do that. They're gonna think you joined the panel. Hey, Uncle Ruckus has just joined the panel.
Right, Uncle Ruckus has just joined the panel, ladies and gentlemen. But
the interesting thing is the black percentage of black mayorship since 2010, has never exceeded 3%. It's always been less than 4%. But in 2010, white mayorship, with percentage wise, was 82, almost 83%. Yeah. It went down to 76%.
Right. Yeah. You know what's interesting, and I'm gonna point this out on Uncle Larry, because the talking points he just laid out. A few years ago, Mitch McConnell laid out the exact same talking points as to why there doesn't need to be any reparations. And he said, we've had a black president, and he listed the things about this, that, and the third, certain black accomplishments. And that means that we don't need reparations. You see how it does? We've got some successful black individuals. So that means that the community doesn't need anything. And that's the type of white supremacist rhetoric that ventriloquist dummies like
the black slave owners.
Yeah. He opens his mouth and Mitch McConnell's voice comes out. And we know that Mitch McConnell doesn't care about black people.
And the ironic thing is that he went on Candace Owens' show out, I don't know if it was before the Breakfast Club or after the Breakfast Club. I think it was before. And the conversation of reparations came up. Of course, he's a staunch opponent of reparations for, descendants of American slaves.
Yeah.
Then he had the audacity to say,
for the slave owners,
that the slave owners should get reparations. The former slave owners should get reparations because they had property. It was legal. That's what was legal at the time. Property. And so
crazy.
I'm like, oh my God. But check this out.
Yeah.
His other talking point. Always. There was fathers in the home. And see, when we have fathers in the home, if I was out there doing these things and I would be afraid my father finding out. Well, guess what, Larry? Some of us that grew up without a father in the home, guess what? We wouldn't have been out there doing that because we would have been afraid of our mothers finding out what we were doing. Our grandmothers finding out, and our grandfathers finding out what we were doing, our uncles and aunts finding out what we were doing. So this fathers in the home is the end all be all is not. Now, am I advocating for not having fathers in the home? Of course not. So, as my friend and sister says, don't hear what I'm not saying. Okay, I'm not saying we don't need.
I know that's right.
Right. But what I am saying is that having fathers in the home has never stopped young folk from cutting up.
It hasn't.
People gonna do what young folk gonna be rebellious and do what they do. They've been doing that since the beginning of time. This society, not just the black community, but this society morally has gone down. So it's not just black community.
Like Charlemagne pointed out, explain how Trump and Giuliani both have fathers at home, but yet they're indicted.
Yeah,
exactly right. Exactly right. And speaking of that, Uncle Larry got a question right here, so I want us to hear this sister.
Real quick, let me land. Yeah, let me land real quick.
Let me land. You sound like you've been on Clubhouse or something. Talking about let me land. Let me land my plane.
I got my plane, brother. So anyway,
got the plane.
Yeah. So anyway, he talks like before the civil rights bill was passed, and welfare agents started going around and passing out welfare cards to black women. 1965. Before 1965, everything was hunky dory. We had fathers in the home, and can someone please explain to me then how, not just in black homes but white homes too, how fathers were abandoning families because they couldn't afford to take care of them, or they just wanted to do something else, or how some of these daddies had two families.
Yeah,
up the street, he got a family on this side of the street and got a family on the other side of the street.
I mean, where they think the song "Papa Was a Rolling Stone" came from?
Thank you.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Thank you. Oh,
Mama, I heard Papa got
So
and another wife, and that ain't right.
Right.
Exactly.
So to the point that you brought up earlier, Brother Charles, I think it was you that brought up the statistics of fathers and fathers and their children. Just because a father's not in the home doesn't mean that he's not
influential.
That he's not involved in his kid's life.
Exactly.
And that's what bothers me, because some people, some are divorced, some never got married, but they were together, they broke up, but they still are involved in their kids' lives. And these are the nuanced conversations that people you see young black. You see young black dudes with their kids all the time.
Mm-hmm.
They're probably not married, but guess what?
The CDC reported that we are more involved with our children than any demographic, any other racial group.
There you go.
And let me say this too.
I wonder why Uncle Larry didn't see that one.
But see, that's the thing about these guys, these folks with these talking points, and including the tinfoil hats, as you like to call the people who troll your page. Like they throw out all these like arbitrary stats, but they're never from credible resources or the credible sources, I should say.
Yeah, but I'm not saying again. Don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not saying that I'm against marriage. What I am saying is that not all these people out here married are not taking care of their kids. That's what I'm getting at.
Right.
And I land on that, brother. Go ahead, Charles.
All right, my brother's land is plane. I want to get Uncle Larry in here one more time, and this sister asked him a question. So let's hear that.
Let's just remove the word racism, since that seems to be a word that triggers, a conversation down the water hole. Let's just focus on the word system. You mentioned that the system was the one that discouraged. And again, we have no problem with agreeing that the family, the Black family, should certainly has some room for some improvement. But let's just focus on system.
Room for improvement?
System. Well, we're not going to go down that water. We're not going to go down that water hole. Let's get to the question. So the question is, you said that the system encouraged Black women to be single mothers, correct?
I said the welfare state, yes.
The welfare, the system. So who's in charge of the system? Who was in charge of the system?
Well, it was Democrats that passed it.
And who were Democrats? Were they Black or white at that time?
Well, at the time, majority of Black people were Democrats, as the majority of Black people are Democrats now.
Not the voters. I'm talking about the system. Remember, the main idea is the word system. Who was in charge of the system at the time? The Democrats at the time, the system. I'm just going to Charlemagne's point about white or Black. Was it white Democrats in charge of the system or Black Democrats in charge of the system?
Well, if you're prepared to say that Lyndon Johnson did this viciously with an intent to destroy the Black family, I disagree. He did it with the best of intentions. And if you look at the New York Times, which is left wing, the Washington Post, which is left wing,
he knows that.
And what I'm asking was, white people, so I'm going to ask again in case my mic's not coming through clearly. Was it white people in charge of the system or Black people in charge of that system that helped break down the Black family? It's a simple yes, just a simple question, white or Black?
Well, you didn't have to go on welfare unless you voluntarily chose to go on welfare. The inducement was put there by Democrats, by the left.
Correct. Okay. Democrats,
most black people were Democrats, and they voted for these white people.
Not
too.
Voters. I said who's in charge of the system.
Well, who puts them in charge?
Was Lyndon Johnson white or Black?
Who puts them in charge?
Maybe that'll help.
Fine. Lyndon Johnson was white.
Thank you.
Okay. But if your argument is that the reason he did it is because of racism, then I disagree. He did it because of.
That's not my argument. I just asked you a simple question: was he white or Black, Charlemagne?
And Mr. Elder, you said you talked about the smash and grabs, right? And I find that interesting because when you see,
but do you see how he deflected?
Yes,
the whole time he was partisan talk to deflect.
It goes back to what Charlemagne asked him a while ago. What are white folks doing?
Right.
Okay, see, he couldn't bring himself to say, even though he knows those were white Democrats and he knows there were some white Republicans that actually supported that as well. The bill actually had strong bipartisan support, but you can go back and look at the rolls of who voted for what. But notice how he always got to blame the Black people. It was Black Democrats that voted for the white Democrat. See, he always got to put the blame black on the Black, even though the sister asked him who was in charge of that system. And he couldn't bring himself to say white Democrats. So when it comes to colorism and protecting and covering for white people, it even knows no partisan bounds with Uncle Larry.
You saw his brain like it was Black voters.
Right.
The Black folks put them in the office.
Blame Black. Black.
It was your Black grandmama that did it.
Basically, it intellectually, he was just applying duct tape to everything as a fix. You know what I'm saying?
he knew, number one, he knew what she was asking.
Well, of course.
He's playing games, talking about, well, if you want to blame Lyndon Johnson, you know good and well she ain't blaming Lyndon Johnson.
And she asked him specifically, shout out to you, Tesla and Figaro, you ethered that man. I don't care what nobody say, and I hope she hear it. But like that's what it is. It's like their canned response is pivots back to partisan talk. And white folks do it who are conservative do it, and as well as Black folks. They always quick to, even if we point out something that Trump may have done or the system may have done, they just quickly say, well, the Democrats did. I said, no, that's not a partisan thing. We talk about who. We talk about the architect of the entire system.
Yeah.
Just like how, like in IT speak, like if you ever seen Active Directory, what do they call that whole thing? It's called a forest, right? What Tesla is talking about is who's the architect of that entire forest. Don't tell me about the container. Don't tell me about the organizational unit. Who's the architect of the entire forest? That's what her question was. You know,
they gave him a softball. I mean, literally,
yeah,
a softball with no spin, brother. No spin on the softball, right down the middle.
right.
Would even swing. He said, they said, what about mass shooters? Can you at least condemn mass shooters? What?
Black. If he can't blame black, he don't want to do it.
And then you notice the smash and grab. He blamed us for it, but you saw the photos come out of the Hispanic cats, a dude and a Hispanic girl that did it.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because he said one of the ones was unmasked and he was a black. Did y'all catch that? He was a black.
Yeah.
Who talks like that? Oh, we know who talks like
the blacks. The blacks.
This is why I keep saying that Larry Elder is a black ventriloquist dummy.
Hey,
he opens his mouth and the voice of white supremacy comes.
And they don't even see themselves as black. Anytime, like when you have black people in skin who speak about black people in the third person, those not our people, man. They're not our people.
Yeah. Remember. Look at my blacks.
My African American over there. Do you see him? He's right over here.
What do you have to lose?
What do you have to lose? A lot, apparently.
A lot.
Democracy. How about democracy?
Yeah.
You wants to be king.
Yeah, because I think
you can stay out of jail.
As bad as DeSantis is, as bad as Trump is, or one of these folks are bad, and we can go on Pence, all of them, you know. But these Negro Shapiros, these ventriloquist dummies, these fools have got to go, man. They are no friends of ours.
Yeah, listen. It's like when you got coons in your attic. You need to call the wildlife people, get them to come out, trap
Get the trappers out.
Yeah, get the traps out, get the coons in cages, and take them somewhere else.
Yep.
But you got to get the coons out of your attic because they mess up your duct work. They poop all over the place. They rip out your insulation to make their nest so that their babies can get comfortable in your insulation. And it's these black coons that we have to get them in cages, and we have to get them out of our attic so that they can start causing damage to our house.
And the attic is our mind.
Right.
I like to see that. That's why you're on the show, brother. That's why you're on the show.
I guarantee you somebody's going to, somebody see this or they respond or they, whether in person or electronically or whatever. The first question they go say, well, was Larry lying? Was Larry lying or was Larry telling the truth? And here's the thing. When we start off the show, what did I say? I said Satan always take the truth and put a little bit of poison in it.
And mix it up.
It's
like saying, like, if I gave you I use ocean spray, that's my beverage of choice. I don't drink, but if I gave you a cup of ocean spray to drink, and then a cup of cyanide, right? Okay, you're not going to drink and mess with that cyanide because you know what it is. But if I gave you ocean spray laced with the cyanide, you're more enticed to drink it. And the cyanide is already spiked. So while you thinking you're drinking ocean spray, you're drinking ocean spray and cyanide as like a math. A positive times a negative is a negative. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yep. So the metaphor I was using there is to say anybody can speak the truth. We can take statistics, we can skew them, we can do whatever with it. Just as Charles started off, he was talking about, every community has something, black on black crime, white on white crime, yellow on, Chinese on Chinese crime, on down the line. Proximity. Would we like to see crime, especially violent crime, decrease? Of course. We're not crazy. But
numbers in the hands of a potter can be anything they want it to be.
Yeah. It just like how people use the Bible. So like I was on Clubhouse listening to this guy, and he said, I want to share with y'all the scripture. Well, what scripture is that? He wanted to share John chapter 16 and verse 13, which of course says, but when he, the Spirit of truth, comes, he will guide you in all truth. He will not speak on his own, but he will only speak what he hears, and he will tell you what is yet to come. That's John chapter 16, verse 13. And that's true. Right?
On his face.
But then he turns around and says, I am he.
Is that guy that says he's the second person of the book?
That's the guy. So you probably heard it before. So
he's been everywhere.
Yeah. So he took a thing that was true. John chapter 16, verse 13. Yeah, that's true. But the way he used it, no. You can't use that like that. And so it goes to the point of what you're saying. You could have some statistics, but if you're using them improperly and really with a nefarious intent to harm Black people, you are not our people. When you take a 93% Black on Black crime rate, and you use that to portray Black people as hyper-violent, irresponsible, unable to manage their anger, feed into the worst racial stereotypes that you can imagine, which is what white supremacy has been doing since 1865, since slavery ended. They've been doing it, right? To try to propagandize the population to keep us marginalized. And when you find yourself doing that, you are an enemy of our people. I don't care if your face is Black. When you open your mouth, the voice of white supremacy comes out because you are a Black ventriloquist dummy, and you are allowing white supremacists to throw their voice and have it come out of your mouth. And so they're saying it by proxy through you, when the facts are the white on white crime rate is 84%. So if you think Black on Black crime, if you think 93% is a thing, you ought to make a big stink about 84%, especially when the 84% is in the majority population. I mean, it's basically an epidemic. White on white crime should be an epidemic, but of course it's not. And there's a racial motivation that makes 93% an issue and ignores 84%. Right.
And then to add this to it, according to the ATF, did you know that the number of Black legal gun owners is 19%, but the number of white legal gun owners is 43%? So if you want to sell the notion, that weird black folks are just going to be marauding on your neighborhoods and stuff like that, when the fact of the matter is a lot of Black folks, their credit ain't good to get no car, or they can't afford to put gas in it these days to even get to your motherfucking neighborhood. They can't do nothing to harm you. They ain't got the income, they ain't got the credit, they ain't got the resources to even get to where you at. So in most cases, nobody is more segregated and insular than white people.
Right.
So when you have a 43% legal gun ownership rate, who are you afraid of kicking down your door? And that supports what you outlined in your opening statements, Brother Charles, about intraracial, about proximity. Okay, so who's coming in your door? You know what I'm saying?
That's it. Okay, so gentlemen, we're coming up on the 2-hour mark, so we're gonna go ahead and get out of here pretty soon. So let's have some last words from Brother JT Mack. Then we're gonna have last words from Brother Salam and then myself. Final thoughts.
Okay, yeah. I just want to remind people that I'm not. This is not we're not here to tell people to vote for. We bring bring awareness to some certain issues. We bring awareness to some people talking points and how they're skewed without nuance, points of views, without context, and that those things matter. And I tell you guys, an interesting show to watch. I know a lot of y'all hate Roland Martin, but Professor Karen Hunter has a show on YouTube, and she used on every Saturday. Dr. Oh man, I forgot his name now. Because he comes on Roland Martin show too. But they go back and they do a show on history every Saturday morning. You know, Black history, and it could be from ancient times or from more modern times. And normally, a lot of times, it's more modern stuff. But I'm pointing her out to say that it's people like her who are out there trying to educate folk. You know, that's what, you know what I'm saying. But then you got some of our people just running to go watch Canzons. They're running to go watch Larry Elders and running to, and it's disheartening because we'll run into some of these people, Charles Noah, on his page or in different groups, and they be like, "Oh, I love Candace Owens," and I'll be like, "I'm telling you guys right now, if you tell me you love Candace Owens, I'm looking at you sideways."
Right.
So I'm just encouraging people to dig more. You know, yes, both parties suck and they got some issues. So dig more, look into it more. But anybody that is just always got a problem with people that look like you, something's wrong, something's off. Be suspicious of people like that.
Right.
That's my encouragement today.
Amen, brother. Brother Salon.
And thank you, Jay, man, for putting that in there. I want to take the time to tell your audience here to take the time to stress test your deep-seated beliefs. Take the time to stress test your talking points. Take the time to stress test your tendencies. It doesn't make you appear to be weak, even with your beliefs, tendencies, and talking points happen to fail the stress test. In actuality, that means you're growing. That means you're expanding your ideas, which when expansion and growth of your ideas, you don't become a heated adversary of the three of us who are sitting here with you today. Also, there was a live that I did before where I found on a military website where it pointed out the code of conduct in the military that you should, and I'm paraphrasing that they're supposed to resist and not accept any favors from the enemy. It was one of the things that strike out to me. Even if you should take any manner of mind, body, and soul, and all means necessary to resist your captors. And I will present a question and call a response form to the audience to you to think to yourself, are we as Black people being hit by an act of war perpetually from the moment we touch foot on these shores to this very day? Are we not in an act of war? Answer that question to yourself. Are we not in acting upon a code of conduct amongst each other? So I challenge you to compare the code of conduct. Those of you veterans out there, you swore the oath to protect the Constitution. There's pledges that you made. There's a code of conduct that you have to adhere to in order to don that uniform. Okay, well, you were born with a dermatological uniform that you have to adhere to, that Larry Elder is not adhering to, that Candace Owens is not adhering to. So if you're born with the uniform, this isn't government issue, this was God issue. Okay, and so we're not. So you're a GI. You swore to be a GI as a government issue. We all are GIs because we were God issue. So I'm manning up this code of conduct right here, and don't be afraid to call out those in your ranks who are in violation, who are treasonous to that code of conduct. And one last thing is, speaking of the acts of war that we have to recognize, I mentioned that earlier in my opening, is recognize, have our emotional intelligence intact. Within our own community, conflict resolution. Within our own community, be observant. For those of you who are in project management, I spoke about this in a live before. There's a principle called SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. If you are not aware of our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, you can't recognize a friend or foe right in front of you if you're looking at them. And you got a few seconds to recognize that. Yeah, so the strengths and weaknesses are introspective, opportunities and threats are external. You observe how you apply those strengths and weaknesses, shore up your weaknesses, accentuate your strengths to take advantage of the opportunities and eradicate the threats. And so I'm gonna leave it at there and turn over to our dear brother.
Yeah, and of course, wrapping up with my closing remarks tonight, I want to send this message out to Uncle Larry Elder, Uncle Clarence, up there on the Supreme Court, Clarence Thomas, Candace Owens, of course, the Black conservative who made that idiotic pic collage of Trump's mugshot with Dr. King's mugshot. I think his name was C.J. Pearson. That's right, C.J. Pearson. And all of the Black Judases, all of the Black snitches who snitched on Nat Turner and prevented all of the over 250 different slave rebellions and uprisings that included at least 10 slaves that happened in this country. All of you Black Judases, all of you race traitors, all of you disgraces to the race, this is for you. And of course, I'm not going to say it, but the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is going to say it one more time.
One more time. Go ahead.
One more time as we close out. This is for you.
No. We all not gonna be together. This ain't no damn unity party with punks. This ain't no unity party with people who don't want the true liberation of Black people. This ain't no unity party with betrayers and snitchers and hypocrites and weak-minded, weak-blooded, spineless Black people. This ain't that kind of party. So you take your raggedy ass on home. But those who want liberation. Those who want to see Black people really free at last. You walk away from these punctified Negroes unless you unite the like-minded of us, whether we are Christians or Muslims or nationalists or agnostics or socialists. If we are like-minded on reparations and on justice for our people, we are brothers indeed. But a black face ain't gonna make you no brother today. Go ahead. We tired of these black-faced, white-hearted niggas. Go ahead, say that. Masquerading as though you love your people. We see you.
Yep, we tired of you.
That's right.
All right, y'all have a good night. Thanks for tuning in. I've been Brother
Charles. God bless Johnson, you both.
Brother Salam with us, Brother JT Mack. Till next time, stay black, stay beautiful.
Absolutely.